Hey guys, welcome to the WWE podcast, and we're going to get started in just a minute, but of course, I want to give you guys a quick overview of what this show is about, and today I've got Grater, one of the co-hosts of the show, with me as we go through some of the bigger topics that are going on in WWE right now. We don't cover everything because it would be impossible unless you want a 12-hour show, but we do cover Zelina Vega, what we see her future as. We cover the firings by Vince McMahon, the 40-plus firings, and give our brutally honest review on that. And, you get to hear Mary's response on this, and it's very, very interesting, and that's towards the beginning of the show. We talk about Shayna Baszler, with her breaking her opponent's arms right now. We talk about Braun Strowman and Bray Wyatt, Gronkowski leaving and heading back to the NFL. So we cover a lot of different things, as well as the Money in the Bank ladder match itself. How could that be presented in the structure of the Titan Tower, the Titan Tower environment? So we really cover a very wide variety of topics. I think you'll enjoy this show. So we're going to get it all started right after this. Hey, so you guys want to check out one of the fastest growing podcasts right now? Check out the Jits Guy podcast. That's Jits, Jits. It's a huge podcast right now. It's exploding, and it's out of the Middle East, and it's about MMA and jiu-jitsu and the scene of hosting some of the biggest names in combat. The guests that they share have stories in their life that led them down the combat path, and they dig deep into their mindset to figure out what made them who they are. And other than fighters, the show also has hosts that talk about health and fitness that are dedicated in the performance of combat athletes, as well as business owners that made a living out of pursuing their passion for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and MMA or martial arts in general. So again, this is called the Jits Guy podcast, and they're available anywhere the podcasts are available. Apple, Google, and on YouTube as well. They have a YouTube channel. It's called The Jits Guy. And what's great about it is it's not just audio that's on YouTube. They actually have a high quality, high def video of the interviews that are done. And it's very well done. The sound quality is extremely good. They clearly put a lot of time into the production of this. And they interview some of the best names in the Middle East in the jiu-jitsu field. So check them out. It's the Jits Guy. It's very well done. I think this podcast is going to be one of the bigger ones to come out of this field, because I don't know, honestly, who else is covering this kind of topic, right? It's often long-form audio, so if you love long-form audio, listenable, everything, it checks all the boxes. Again, check out the Jits Guy on YouTube or anywhere podcasts are available.
Welcome to the WWE Podcast, the most passionate and authentic wrestling analysis on the web. We've got you covered with every Raw, Smackdown, and NXT show, giving you a no bullshit opinion. We know you love wrestling. We do too. So let's get this show underway.
And that's the bottom line. What? 'Cause Stone Cold said so.
Hey guys, welcome to the WWE podcast. It is Saturday, April 25th, 2020. And we got a great show for you, as always. Longer show. I know some of y'all love this longer kind of show, and that's what you're going to get tonight, or today, or this morning. I don't know when you're listening to it, but it's going to be a longer show than normal. And we've got Grater joining us to discuss, as you heard at the top of the show, we got the firings that I didn't get her opinion on, and I add some of my own thoughts on that as well. We talk about Zelina Vega. We talked about the whole Vince angle on Smackdown that was just bizarre, and we talk about whether or not we think that could be leading to an angle of some sort. Shayna Baszler and her breaking her opponent's arms, what we think about that, whether we love it or hate it. And, of course, we talk about Braun Strowman. We talked about Gronkowski, the Money in the Bank pay-per-view itself. So we really, again, we have a wide range of topics, but I want to just kind of tamper your expectations that we touch on everything that happened this week in WWE. That's a bit much. We did not do that. We deep dived into these probably 6 or 7 topics and gave our honest thoughts and opinions, because that's what we do here. Right? We don't sugarcoat things. We're PG, but we don't sugarcoat things. And basically, we're not state-run radio. We are not affiliated with WWE in any way, which I think is a great thing, because we have no vested interest other than being fans. We are just fans who have a passion for this business and love it and want to see it improve and continue and thrive. And when we critique, that's exactly where it's coming from. It's coming from a place of passion. So I don't want people to think this is basically a podcast that uses negativity to generate listens. I don't think that's a sustainable model. I'll get that word out. Sustainable model. Because it just eventually will just drive people away, because I think people right now especially need a little positivity. So with that being said, though, Mary and I were not very keen on WWE releasing so many of their employees, their independent contractors and some employees. And you know what? I have mixed feelings on it. They are a private company, but they have the right to do it. Especially as independent contractors, you have very little leverage to stand on. You really have no ground to stand on if WWE wants to just terminate your contract at any time. And that's what they did with many of their employees, and I feel for them, and we cover that as well. So, guys, follow me on Twitter at the WWE Podcast, or head on over to the website if you'd like to get more information on what we do and some of the podcasts we've done. And you can also email me, realwwepodcast@gmail.com. For you want to get your voice on the show and be a part of the show, you can do that there and send me a comment or question via voicemail. I would be glad to help you guys out. So, it's fun. It's fun to interact with other people as well on the show, even if it's just in a pre-recorded voice type of way. So, alrighty, guys. Well, let's get to it. Enough of the nonsense. Let's get right to it with Mary Grater and myself. I'll be back on, what the hell is it? Today's Saturday. So I'll be back on Tuesday with your Raw review. But in the meantime, you'll get Aiden's analysis on Smackdown, a full Smackdown review where I just kind of graze over some of the bigger topics. Aiden gets really in depth into it. So you'll get that in the next couple of days. And then I'll be back Tuesday, and then everything back as normal. So thank you guys for listening. Hope you enjoy the conversation. I'm sure you will. I'm sure I'll get some feedback one way or the other. Everyone enjoy themselves. I'll talk to you soon. All right, well, it is time for your weekend review with the WWE Podcast, and we've got Mary Grater back on the show as we are all surviving this pandemic that is now becoming our new normal, and she is doing much better with the pandemic, which is good news, and enjoying the time as she's a homebody, as she says. So welcome back, Mary. It's really good to have you on the show, and that you're doing so well, or doing better than you were just a few weeks ago with the whole situation going on.
Yeah, as you said, hey everybody, what's going on? Matt, how are you?
Good.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of becoming the new normal, like you just said. I'm a home person. I do spend a lot of time at home. I do like having my freedom, though, to go wherever I want. But yeah, I've just been trying to do projects and get through school, which I wish would end, because that's the most annoying thing during this whole thing, is that I still have to do tons of Spanish homework. The last 2 weeks, I only have like 2 weeks left, two and a half weeks left, and it's dragging, guys. It's dragging. Let me tell you, nobody wants to be doing Spanish 2 homework in a pandemic. No offense to Hispanics, I don't want to learn Spanish at this point. I just want things to go back to normal. But yeah, like I was saying, I did a bunch of yard work today because for once it wasn't raining and it was relatively warm. And I put together a TV console and a new TV for my mother next week because I'm the best daughter in the world. And yeah, that's it. I ordered a bike. I'm waiting for the bike. And just trying to ride it out.
I see what you did there. That's pretty good.
Yeah, look at me. I'm a pun. Yeah, no, that was totally not planned.
I know.
Yeah, so I'm doing better. My anxiety is a little bit more controlled, I guess. I'm still a nervous person, but just trying to ride it and just accepting it for what it is. I mean, I think that's the best thing that everybody can do, and not, freak out or get in their own head. I know it's really hard. I know there are probably a whole bunch of more people out there that are dealing with more stuff than I am. I'm kind of blessed. I'm still getting paid by my job. I've been able to work a couple of times in the last couple of weeks doing NFL radio leading up to the draft. I know other people aren't as fortunate, so I'm just trying to step back and think about how fortunate I actually am. So that's kind of keeping me level.
Yeah, no, that's great. It's great to hear. And speaking of people that are a little less fortunate, we got about, what was it, on the 15th? So 10 days ago, WWE had one of their single largest, probably the largest day of releases in the company's history, releasing over 40 stars, wrestlers, I'll call them because that's what they are, wrestlers and production team and a referee. I think Mike Chioda was on that list. And so, I don't want to go through all the names, but I do have to ask you, what did you think of this? Obviously, you were surprised by it. I think many of us were, especially with the number. There are times cyclically with WWE that you see people who, or the WWE kind of like trim the fat, and that's just normal, and it's just kind of the normal business process for WWE. I mean, you can't keep all the talent you got. I mean, everyone's not going to work out. So, but this was different. This was, a lot of this they said was based on the COVID-19. And that they had to cut millions of dollars in order to stay afloat and all this stuff. And so I'll just let the floor be yours, Mary. What did you think about this and some of the names on that list with Kurt Angle and Rusev and so on? So go ahead.
So, what do I have to say about this? I have a lot to say about this. And I hate getting into other areas because this is a wrestling podcast, but this has skeezy written all over it. I've had my problems with the company in the past. You know how I feel about the Saudi Arabia deals and stuff like that. And, in this whole entire thing, WWE has been trying to keep performing, I guess, for the sanity of the public, just to be like, we're still putting smiles on people's faces. And even though all sports are going to be canceled, we're still going to do it, very much what they did after 9/11. And it was appreciated and stuff. I was completely and utterly disgusted when I saw this. Twice a year they do their cut day, and it's kind of a joke on Twitter. If anybody remembers when JTG was released, he was like, I shouldn't have answered my phone that day. It's a common occurrence, but to let go of so many people who have families and who this is their livelihood, and there's competitors, but the competitors are dealing with the same stuff that you're dealing with right now, and you're the biggest wrestling company on the face of the earth. You're still bigger than AEW. I don't care how much money they have. For you to sit there and say we're going to be here for you, and then to let your own people go. People who wanted releases, people that had been asking for releases, and you were hoarding them from other companies. So other companies wouldn't get the talent, even though they wanted to go. And I'm happy that the people who wanted to let go get let go, so they will have more opportunities. But right now, it's just not the time, man. It's really, really, really crappy that McMahon did this. And I think there's alternative motives behind it. And again, like I said, this is a wrestling podcast. I don't want to get into politics. But all the happenings that happen within a couple of days and weeks of these people being released, it smells fishy. Them being claimed essential workers by Florida, which is absolutely asinine. I'm sorry. I love wrestling as much as anybody else. But professional wrestling is not an essential business. And in order for that to happen in Florida, and of course it was Florida, because, sorry anybody who's listening from Florida, but there's a reason why you're Florida. Somebody got paid off. And, Linda McMahon and her ties with the Trump administration and money going in that way. And then all of a sudden after this, Vince McMahon, not Linda, Vince McMahon is named an advisor on Trump's thing to reopen the government or reopen the country. I don't know, man. It feels like you released all these workers to pay people off. And on top of that, you guys did $500 million in revenue last year. Somebody came out with the numbers. It would have cost $42 to $52 million to keep everybody that you fired on staff for a year. It's unacceptable. It's disgusting. It's garbage. I have worse words for it, but I'm trying to keep it PG right now. but I'm infuriated by it. And I feel for all those people and the names that he released, like people that have been there 10 years, Fit Finley, IRS, Kurt Angle, like all these people, trainers. And like, you know what? I'm upset that Heath Slater got released. These are the guys that have been there and have bent over backwards for you. And this is how you repay them. In the middle of a pandemic, you release them and just leave them jobless, basically. Because you know what? These aren't the people that are getting like $1 million contracts. These are the people that are getting paid well, but have to pay for their own insurance and have to pay for their own travel. 300 days a year, which adds up. So I mean, that's the bulk of it. I think it's disgusting. I lost a lot of respect for McMahon that day, more so than I already did. Everybody's always known that he's kind of like a head case and not the best person in the world. But this was just, how do you do this to people in the middle of a pandemic when you don't have to? Can you answer that for me, Matt?
You're listening to the WWE Podcast. We'll be right back after this short break.
Hey, so you guys want to check out one of the fastest growing podcasts right now? Check out the Jits Guy podcast. That's Jits, Jits. It's a huge podcast right now. It's exploding, and it's out of the Middle East, and it's about MMA and jiu-jitsu and the scene of hosting some of the biggest names in combat. The guests that they share have stories in their life that led them down the combat path, and they dig deep into their mindset to figure out what made them who they are. And other than fighters, the show also has hosts that talk about health and fitness that are dedicated in the performance of combat athletes, as well as business owners that made a living out of pursuing their passion for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and MMA or martial arts in general. So again, this is called the Jits Guy podcast, and they're available anywhere the podcasts are available. Apple, Google, and on YouTube as well. They have a YouTube channel. It's called The Jits Guy. And what's great about it is it's not just audio that's on YouTube. They actually have a high-quality, high-def video of the interviews that are done. And it's very well done. The sound quality is extremely good. They clearly put a lot of time into the production of this. And they interview some of the best names in the Middle East in the jiu-jitsu field. So check them out. It's the Jits Guy. It's very well done. I think this podcast is going to be one of the bigger ones to come out of this field, because I don't know, honestly, who else is covering this kind of topic, right? It's often long form audio. So if you love long form audio, listenable, everything, it checks all the boxes. Again, check out the Jits Guy on YouTube or anywhere podcasts are available.
Welcome back to the WWE Podcast. Let's get back to more great wrestling audio.
Well, they would probably tell you that they had to. I mean, because, again, I'm not disputing the fact that this was a wrong thing to do, but I think that WWE would say, that, well, you look at the talent that we released, and we don't see a future with this talent. We don't. I mean, you look at some of these names: Eric Young, Rowan, Sarah Logan. You'd look at these and go, I see that why they were released. The problem that we all have with this is the volume of people that are being released. And certainly the ties with Linda McMahon in Florida and the Trump administration, I don't think that you can look at this, anybody can look at this. Again, not political, but it's hard not to tie in this part of it because it's part of WWE's structure and part of the story here is that there's certainly something fishy going on. I mean, when you look at it, where there's smoke, there's fire. I mean, if it is what it is, then it probably is what it smells like it is. And I don't think there's any denying that. And to deem them an essential service, again, that would probably depend on your definition of essential, because you have a lot of quote essential services out there that are still open that you could be like, well, that's not life or death. How is it essential? It's all how you define essential. But Vince McMahon here, he kind of just showed you that this, and reminded fans that this is a this is a cutthroat business, and reminded also the talent there that, anybody's expendable. And I think the morale in WWE right now for the people that are still there is certainly at an all-time low. People are probably more fearful than ever, which means that people are more reserved than ever, which means that the micromanaging of talent is going to exponentially increase because people aren't going to don't have the guts to go out on a limb and possibly do something that they feel is, or not do something they don't want to do, or do something that they feel like they should, but not because they are fearful now of their job. So it creates a fearful environment. And also the families, like you said, people have families, and you may say, well, look, they're getting paid hundreds of thousands of dollars, in some cases, maybe close to seven figures, maybe, depending on who you're looking at here. And that may be true, but you have no idea what's going on at home. You don't know what their expenses are. As you said, the travel, the health insurance, all those things that go into this lifestyle that most of us don't have to worry about. If we travel, our work pays for it. Most of us have private health insurance that gets paid for through our employer. Those kinds of things don't exist for the WWE stars. Plus, they're constantly traveling, the food, the hotel, all this. Yep. And it's not considered when you look at, wow, they're making a ton of money. But how much are they saving? It's not how much you're making, it's how much you save. So I feel for the people. I feel for their families right now. That's who I feel for. And yes, there is a place to go that is AEW. There's a place to go that's Ring of Honor, New Japan, Impact, yeah, whatever. But the fact is, not all these people are going to get hired again. Some of these people are probably going to go back to Plan B, if they even had a Plan B. So I feel for the families, and I feel for the guys and gals that got cut. Some of them deservingly, probably. Some of them probably got a breath of fresh air and felt, oh, thank God this is over. I can finally go do X, whatever it may be. But the fact is that most of them probably didn't see this coming and are now in panic mode when it comes to being able to provide for their families.
I mean, did you see the Drake Maverick video?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I was like, my heart broke for him. Like, and that's a guy that I don't think deserved to get cut at all. Rusev, no. Like, why does Lana still have a job? like Rusev is like, it's just, and how do you think that's going on in their household right now? They're married in real life. Yep. So, like, Lana's still with the company and Rusev just got cut. Like, it's just, I understand that they're going to say by a business model, but, like, I also think that they didn't need to do, they could have kept them on. At least they could have kept them on through this. And with people who are not performing right now, because there are a handful of performers who refuse to go and work. Roman Reigns, Kyle O'Reilly. There are a bunch of people that were like, I ain't going into this. I'm staying home, So there was ways to use this talent and have them comfort. But, like, I know it's a cutthroat business, but this is something that is unprecedented that's going on right now. And these people have families. And like you said, is when you save, people don't understand how much money they're actually spending being in this thing. It doesn't matter how much you're getting paid. If you put together flights and hotels and food and travel and health insurance, they are not, they're probably hitting even, maybe? I don't know. But I know that they pay for a lot of their own stuff. And it's just, for a company that is as big as WWE and the amount of money that they bring in yearly, I know it's really hard for them right now. This was just something that I felt was unnecessary. You need to make some cuts? Yeah, go do it. But the amount of people that they let go and the names that they let go, especially behind the scenes talent, like, it's just, again, it's unacceptable for me. And again, also, there were a bunch of talent that wanted their releases and they wouldn't release them that got released. And it just shows that he was hoarding talent. And, I was having a discussion with my friend the other day, because some people got furloughed too. I know that. But, I was having a discussion with him and he was like, well, don't you think that, like, Vince is going to hire him back when this is all over? And that may very well may be the case. But do you think that these people are going to want to go back to him after this? I wouldn't. I would be like, oh, there's AEW. I'm going to go try to get a job with them. Or there's TNA, and I'm going to go try to get a job with them. Or I'm going to go back to ROH, or I'm going to go back to New Japan. All these companies that you just said. Because there is other opportunities for them. What I'm saying is, that right now, those opportunities aren't really there because everybody's kind of in a stop pause right now. Like, I don't know if AEW is actively recruiting right now. Like, I haven't really been paying attention, I'll be quite honest, just because there's too much wrestling and, I'm distracted. There's a pandemic going on. But, like, you don't know, like, what their situation is with their live shows. I heard that their live shows have been better than WWE. Like, you don't know what he's going to do. But, like, yeah, Vince could try to hire him back. But if I was somebody who was released under this situation right now, I tell him to go screw. I'd be like, sod off. I wouldn't let him hire me back because what does that mean? What, are you going to keep me backstage again, like EC3 for 9 months? And then where he was probably asking for his release so he could go and do what he was doing, thriving in other federations when he wasn't in WWE. And now you want to hire me back because this is all over? No, screw you. So it's just, like you said, where there's smoke, there's fire. I think there was other reasons why this happened. I don't think it was as a company perspective that they were trying to cover their butt and they were going bankrupt. WWE is not going bankrupt, okay? Like, Vince McMahon is very wealthy. That company brought in a lot of revenue last year. I mean, they didn't even have to pay for probably everything that they had to put into WrestleMania this year. You know how much money that saved? You know, I'm sure they got it all back. It wasn't like this was like, oh, last minute it got canceled. We knew this was coming. They took precautions. So I think $50 million out of $500 million that you made last year, you could have waited, or you could have made it not as much as you did, or at least given it a couple more months. You know, maybe when the pandemic let off a little bit and, like, people, like, things started getting a little bit more normal, say, okay, we need to make cuts here, here, and here. You do this in the middle of a lockdown where people can't go out and get jobs. I'm sorry. I'm really, 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 really disgusted by what happened. Like, I was furious.
The timing is terrible. The volume is terrible.
Terrible.
And they tried to put this all on the coronavirus. And to be honest with you, I'm sure that some of it is due to the fact that, yeah, they have lost WrestleMania revenue, which is massive. Millions of dollars to the company lost in revenue. They've lost merchandise sales because of that. The ticket sales on a weekly basis are not happening. I get it. WWE should, just like the rest of the freaking market, the rest of the world, have a decline in revenue for this quarter. Duh. But the fact is that if WWE felt they couldn't absorb that, I don't buy it. Why I don't buy it? They're still getting ad revenue from the live shows that they're producing from their sponsors, which they're keeping in contract with and fulfilling their duties as a platform for the sponsors to promote their business, their product, whatever. So they're still getting ad revenue from that. And they're still getting ad revenue from people shopping on WWEshop.com. Of which I've also noticed that they have all of the, I shouldn't say all, I've sampled a few that have been let go by WWE, and they are still on WWEshop.com, namely Heath Slater and Rusev. I just took a couple of samples, and they still have their merchandise up there, which is good, which means they're going to get royalty checks. Not that they're going to be massive for these stars let go, but at least WWE, I would assume, would honor their royalty checks for any merchandise still left in WWEshop.com. So, whatever consolation that is. WWE has also got a $265 million a year deal with Fox, which leads to just over $1 billion contract with Fox over the next 4 years now left on the contract. So they can't tell me that their revenue is in where they couldn't, they couldn't absorb those people not being utilized and taking the dollar value of those people and going, oh, we need this, we got to let them go or we're going to sink. I don't need to hear that they have a ton of credit that they could have, they could pull from it. They have a massive credit line and go, oh no, we didn't want to do that. We didn't want to take on debt to make sure that these people have jobs. I don't buy it. I'm sorry. I just don't buy it. Certainly their bottom line is going to look better with these people gone, but the morale, the side effects are the things that you can't measure. Morale down to an all-time low because you not only cut people and families that are affected, but the people that are left now view the company as maybe the enemy, because a lot of those people that left, you have no idea who was best friends with who and who loved who, and you have no idea. So you have people that are left there that now view the company as somewhere that they may not want to work. And it is just not a good situation all the way around for this number of people. And you could say, well, WWE's a private industry. They can do what they want. True, they can. And these are all independent contractors. True. This happens in any business all the time. I mean, I could be working in it at Walmart tomorrow and then they fire me the next week just because they want to. And I can't do a damn thing about it. It's just the way it goes in private industry. If you're a public employee, you have a lot more protection with unions. With these guys and gals, these are independent contractors. They're not true employees of WWE. So WWE does have all the right in the world to just go, bye. They do. But just because they can doesn't mean they should. And putting this pandemic and using that as a deodorant for maybe the real reasons why they wanted to get rid of these people, like Sarah Logan. I'm sorry, Sarah Logan, not going anywhere. I see why they cut her. Sorry, she was just not cutting it. She didn't make sense to me. They certainly gave her enough time, whatever the case may be. But the fact is that they're using this as a deodorant to possibly conceal the real reason for why they indeed cut these people, and just go, oh, this is a great reason. This is the time to do it, guys. Now we got a pandemic. The world's crashing. Let's use this as the reason for it. So I think it's.
I don't even think it's so much that, like you just said about revenue and stuff like that. Like how about all the revenue that came in from the Saudi Arabia deal? Like, how much money did they get paid for that? Like, that's a lot of money too. You look at it that way. Again, you can't say that, like, you're gonna be this company, you're gonna be there for the public, and you're putting on WrestleMania even though people should tell you not to, because, like, god darn it, the public needs us right now. We're gonna be the sports entertainment that you need since there's no sports right now. Our job's being put, smiles on people's faces. And then going to the length to get claimed as an essential worker, as an essential job in Florida, which means you just secured that your employees are allowed to work. You just went out of your way and somehow loopholed your way into being an essential workforce, and then you cut a whole bunch of people after that. I'm sorry. It stinks. It smells. It means you didn't want to dip into your own pockets to pay these people off. You decided to dip into your employees' pockets to pay these people off, because there's no way that the state of Florida did claim them as an essential workforce unless they were getting money in politics. That governor got money. I'm sorry. I don't care. People could scream at me on Twitter at mayor_bear.com. Come on, come and get me. It is what it is. It reeks. And then, like I said, Linda McMahon throwing out money to the Trump administration, and then Vince McMahon getting put on a board or a group or a panel to reopen the country. Sorry. This means you didn't want to dip in your own money. You didn't want to dip into your stockholders' money. You just fired your employees to get that money to pay these people off. And that's how it is, because that's how politics is. And nobody convinced me otherwise. I don't care if they're trying to use Corona as a shield. Okay, there are multiple companies out there that, like, I would have thought would have been crappy to their employees, and they're not. Like, I'll use Outback Steakhouse as an example. I didn't know this. I found out the other day. Outback has not furloughed anybody. They haven't fired anybody. Their wait staff, they are getting paid. They're giving their employees free meals, and the CEOs aren't taking any raises or anything. They're cutting their money so they can keep their employees getting paid during this whole entire time. You're going to tell me that WWE doesn't have as much money as Outback Steakhouse?
Well, yeah, I guess the answer is no. I mean, WWE obviously has many millions more.
$2 an hour and live off tips. And they're making sure that their employees are getting, taken care of. I used to work there, so I know how much they get paid. I'm doing this. I didn't know this. I had no idea this was going on. And I read about it the other day. So, again, don't BS me. Don't lie. Don't use this as a thing. You're one of the richest companies in the world. I don't give a crap if you're private or not. There was no reason to do this right now. You could have waited if you really wanted to get rid of these people. You could have gotten rid of these people who wanted their release months ago. Something happened between a donation to the Trump campaign and them getting made essential workforce in Florida. And money was needed, and they didn't want to go into their own pockets. And they sacrificed their workers as payment so they could continue performing at the NXT Performance Center. And that's that conspiracy theory, Mary. I don't even care if that's conspiracy theory. That makes complete sense. Because there was no reason for this. There was no reason to let these people go.
Hey, so you guys want to check out one of the fastest growing podcasts right now? Check out the Jits Guy podcast. That's Jits, Jits. It's a huge podcast right now. It's exploding, and it's out of the Middle East, and it's about MMA and jiu-jitsu and the scene of hosting some of the biggest names in combat. The guests that they share have stories in their life that led them down the combat path, and they dig deep into their mindset to figure out what made them who they are. And other than fighters, the show also has hosts that talk about health and fitness that are dedicated in the performance of combat athletes, as well as business owners that made a living out of pursuing their passion for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and MMA or martial arts in general. So again, this is called the Jits Guy Podcast, and they're available anywhere the podcasts are available. Apple, Google, and on YouTube as well. They have a YouTube channel. It's called The Jits Guy. And what's great about it is it's not just audio that's on YouTube. They actually have a high quality, high def video of the interviews that are done. And it's very well done. The sound quality is extremely good. They clearly put a lot of time into the production of this. And they interview some of the best names in the Middle East in the jiu-jitsu field. So check them out. It's the Jits Guy. It's very well done. I think this podcast is going to be one of the bigger ones to come out of this field, because I don't know, honestly, who else is covering this kind of topic, right? It's often long form audio. So if you love long form audio, listenable, everything, it checks all the boxes. Again, check out the Jits Guy on YouTube or anywhere podcasts are available.
Welcome back to the WWE Podcast. Let's get back to more great wrestling audio.
I don't think it's conspiracy. I mean, I think that there's logic in that, because the fact is politics are involved here. The politics are involved in everything. I mean, like, I don't care, I know this isn't a political show, but the fact is politics, especially when you get to the level of WWE and you have a senator in Florida that is married to the owner of WWE and the performance center is located in Florida, you're going to have people use the power that they have to do what they want to do. And that's, you could say it's an abuse of power. You could say that's a manipulation of power. However you define it, the fact of the matter is WWE used the resources at hand to be able to continue their shows, to be able to make sure that their bottom line is as mitigated as an effect of possible of making sure that they are satisfying Wall Street at the end of the day, and that they are minimizing the damage done by the coronavirus to their bottom line. I mean, the fact is WWE is in business to make money. Like, they are there to make money. They're a business. I don't care about putting smiles on people's faces. That's a facade. That doesn't mean anything to me, because that to me is just it's a vehicle. It's a brand message of what they're trying to do ultimately, which is just to make money. That's what they do. That's why businesses exist, to make money. And if they have a X amount of talent that they feel that they can do without to help their bottom line, well, they just did it. It may not, you can't do anything. Like, legally, they can't do a damn thing about it. But the fact is that it does hurt morale. There are so many, this is going to have a massive ripple effect in things that we don't even understand that are going on backstage with the men and women that are still there. I mean, so it's certainly, it was a dark day in WWE, a dark day for the men and women of this industry. And yes, some will still find work. Some will go to probably AEW. I'm sure AEW's phones rang off the hook that week. And I'm sure some will go to New Japan and all their promotions, and some will find their way back to WWE. And yeah, you could say that they should probably tell McMahon to shove it. But the fact of the matter is, if it comes down to telling McMahon to shove it or not being able to feed your family, I think people are going to suck it up and probably go back to WWE if that's the option available to them, and it's going to provide the most money to their family. It just would make no sense otherwise. I mean, if it came down to me sucking up my pride or not being able to feed my family, I'm going to have to just be like, well, F it. I'm just going to go back to McMahon if that's the only place that'll take me, and maybe they'll do something with me. So there's just so much to this, and I feel for all of this. I mean, again, like, some of these were really surprising, especially the Good Brothers, right? We had Carl Anderson, Luke Gallows, like, really? Like, I looked at them and, like, they were just a WrestleMania, and they were a significant tag team, although certainly kind of a joke of a tag team towards the end, and up and down, and it was just kind of a mess. But they were with AJ,
as long as they were with AJ, they're golden, Like, how does AJ Styles feel like about this right now, Like, I mean, I sent out a sarcastic tweet to, like, I quoted McMahon the other day when he was wishing John Cena a happy birthday, because I was like, I wonder how John Cena feels about this. I'm sure John Cena is pretty disappointed in all this. Like, if his character, is what it is, and he seems like a decent person, I don't think John Cena would have made that decision. Do you? No. I think John Cena would have been like, all right, let's take care of our own, It's supposed to be a family. But I can't get past the fact that you're putting on this BS persona saying, we're going to be there, and we're going to put smiles on people, and we're showing it, and then you're deemed an essential workforce, and then you lay off all these people. It's just unacceptable. That's the bottom line.
All right, well, you heard it here first. I mean, you laid down the open challenge on Twitter, so.
Come at me, guys. Come at me, bro. Like,
Come at me, bro.
I don't care. Like, it's just one of those things that I don't have time to, argue with idiots. But like at the same time, like it's just if you don't see the ugliness, like this whole virus, like a side point from wrestling. This whole virus has exposed all the ugliness in this country and all the problems with this country and all the broken systems and all these things. And WWE had a chance to still kind of be like, in their happy little spot. But it just exposed them for what they were too. And that's what this virus is doing. It's just exposing all the ugly people. And it's terrible. And it's a horrible thing to see. But maybe it's something that we deserve because maybe people have been hiding in the dark and been blind for too long.
And the fact that if what you say is true about McMahon being on some kind of reopening advisory board for the Trump administration, I was trying to find that article, but I mean, I'll take your. I
saw it a bunch of places. Again, I gotta find it. I saw it the week of it happened. I haven't seen anything about it since. Could have been a rumor. Again, there is a lot of BS out there. I'm a big fat checker person, but I really do believe that happened. Maybe it was a leaked thing, but if it is, continue.
I mean, if it is, I'll take that at face value. I mean, again, I can't verify that right now, but assuming that's correct, then the fact that he can't even come out on Smackdown and cut a promo that makes any kind of sense anymore. Oh my God. I mean, I'll get to that in a second too, because we'll lead into that with wrestling because he comes out on Smackdown. Like, what the hell? Vince, he comes out and he still kind of looks like Vince. I see the Vince power walk. He still kind of looks like Vince. He's got bags under his eyes. He looks, he's aging. But every time, so for the last about 5 years now, every time Vince comes out, he's starting to not make sense at all on the mic. And it's just like he pauses where he shouldn't. He tries to, I don't know if he's trying to be funny. I don't know what he's going for at times. He just kind of does his own thing. And I can't follow him anymore. He doesn't have the articulate speaking that he used to have on the mic anymore. I would assume it has to do with age. I mean, I don't see any other way around it. So Vince McMahon is not, immortal. It seems as if Father Time is actually catching up with him. But man, he comes out on SmackDown. He's talking about the gobbledygooker. He's talking about the terrible storyline with Triple H in a coffin. He's talking about all these things. Bailey, this is your life, and talked about how there was crickets there. Like, what are you talking about, Vince? Like, what is this segment? And honestly, the whole segment was kind of weird to begin with. I don't know whether to be up or down on it. Although Vince, he turned off the lights on him. I would assume this is an angle. I believe some people are thinking it's going to lead to Triple H versus Shane at SummerSlam, and there's a lot of story to grab there. So this has to lead to some kind of angle. But Vince on the mic right now is just bizarre. I can't figure him out. He's weird to listen to. It's kind of uncomfortable at times, and that's not the Vince McMahon I knew, but he's on the decline as far as the on-air presence.
Yeah, I don't know what he was trying to be funny. He was trying to joke around with Triple H during that, and it came off exactly what you just said. I had no idea what he was talking about, and maybe that's Vince McMahon humor. I mean, we all know from rumors and hearsay that he has a weird sense of humor, but I had no idea what he was talking about last night. None. Triple H and Shawn Michaels talking was pretty good. They always have good rapport. They're funny. They're definitely brothers in arms and stuff like that. But I don't know what's going on with Vince right now. He's at the level where he's one of those people that shouldn't be trotted onto screen and put in front of public. Just stay behind. Going back to this whole furlough thing, I know XFL went bankrupt. I also think this had something to do with the layoffs because they claimed that WWE didn't have any ownership in XFL, and then as soon as they went under, it came out they owned 23% of it. So it's Vince is Vince, and right now my opinion about Vince is very low, and I just feel like they shouldn't be trotting him on screen because I had no idea what was going on. I was following it until he walked out, like you said, and then he was talking about Katie Vick and the gobbledygooker, and I was like, why is he bringing up is he doing this on purpose? I felt like he was almost doing it on purpose, bringing up the worst skits that the company has had. Did it feel like that to you?
Yes.
Also,
yes.
I just sent to you in chat the link to the article.
I am reading that. So and Business Insider. So wow, yeah, damn.
So and Business Insider is a reputable news source. So
Yeah, it's not, what's that?
TMZ or
yeah, TMZ or one of those Huffington Post or something.
Or it's a dirt sheet, you know.
But yeah, Vince McMahon. Look, he is nowhere near his prime anymore. And especially on screen, I'm sure backstage and in production meetings and creative meetings, he's probably roughly the same type of way where you never know where the hell he's at. You never know what's going on inside Vince's head. He seems like he doesn't even know himself where to go with the company. And I mean, you just see it in his promo. And honestly, I don't know where this is leading. My assumption, I already told you where I think it's going. And even having HBK and Triple H in the ring, sometimes even that's uncomfortable because, we all know they're friends. They've been friends for 25 years. We get it. They were in DX. Great. We get it. But it's getting to the point of, uncomfortable with them in the ring, too, because they take it too far to almost be a parody of themselves. And then you have Triple H on his iPhone getting a FaceTime from Stephanie, and then Stephanie is calling HBK a lazy eye. That was actually that, because that's the first time anyone's called out that actually happened to HBK, and I believe that actually happened with an injury from Kane many years ago. So, but that's the first time anyone's actually said that on air.
I thought it was funny. I laughed. I'm a jerk, though, and I always make fun of Shawn Michaels' lazy eye because I'm an idiot and I'm a jerk. So, yeah, I laughed at that, though. I'm not going to lie. I giggled. So. Yeah,
there's your Be a Star moment for their anti-bullying program. I mean, just put that as part of their promo video. Seriously. But, I mean, then you had, what Ric Flair call him and all this stuff that's just where do you guys come up with this stuff? What are you out here doing? I mean, so, again, I don't know what this final segment was for. Clearly, it's an angle. Do you have any idea where it's going? Maybe, again, maybe Shane versus Triple H as Triple H comes out next. I mean, maybe. I don't know.
I mean, maybe. I don't think so. Matt, I honestly think it's just because they're trying to fill time and they don't know what to do. And it would have been a different production if it was in front of a live audience, like they were saying, it totally would have been. It would have been a celebration. I also have mixed feelings about Triple H, do I think Triple H is one of the best of all time? Okay, yeah. He's in my top 15, maybe. I also don't think he's as great as he makes himself out to be. I also think that he rode Shawn Michaels' coattails for a long, long time. I also think that he's in the position he's in because he married the company's owner's daughter. There's a lot of things about Triple H that rub me the wrong way. I'm not going to say he hasn't had great matches. I'm not going to say he hasn't had any things, but there's a reason why there's a joke with him with a shovel, so it wasn't an ego boost. Was this something they would have done if they had a live audience? Yeah, I totally think they would have, I don't know where it's going. I don't think there was any substance to it. I think they were just looking for something and they were like, oh, hey, it's 25 years Triple H has been wrestling. Okay, yeah, we're going to do a segment even though we don't have a live audience for it. And that's why I think they did the FaceTime stuff. They're pulling stuff out their butt right now, don't you feel it? I mean, I feel it on every single show I watch. Other than the matches being better than they normally are, what are they going to do with their skits right now? It's flopping. It falls flat without an audience. It really does. Even if they're getting booed, it still adds to it. But, trying McMahon out there, I think it was just because they had nothing else in their pocket. And that's what it felt like. Like I said, I felt like he was just exposing and trying to be like, hey, look, I'm kind of cool. I'm going to say all the bad segments we did. It was nonsense. And it was also unfortunate, too, because Triple H has had a lot of great moments, It would have been much cooler in front of a live crowd. They were showing all the greatest moments of him leading up. And they showed when he came back from his quad surgery. I was there. I was at the Garden that night when he came back. It was amazing. It was and it sticks out in my mind still. I mean, that's... we're going almost on 20 years. It's 18 years ago. I remember that it was one of my first WWE events. I remember it clear as day. We were all hyped up. I was with my brother and my sister-in-law. My sister-in-law was pregnant at the time, so my nephew was in the womb. And Triple H came back from crazy surgery, and the place went absolutely nuts. But it's just, we're on the darkest timeline. I've been watching Community, so I'm making Community references, but we're on the almost darkest timeline. It's just a weird time, and I don't think that they know what to do. So they're going to pull out anybody who's backstage that kind of makes sense to the segment. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I mean, again, I'm with you, and you're probably right on that. I just am used to the logic of if something closes the show, 9 times out of 10 it's leading to something. I mean, leading to some kind of angle. I was thinking it was like when Vince McMahon did the Vincent Kennedy Award that he awarded Stephanie, and Shane ended up returning that night to after 7 years being absent from the company. In Boston, I believe it was. So that's what I'm thinking when I see this whole thing building. Oh, it's got to be something interrupting, somebody doing something, and I'd leave the door open for something here. But like you said, yeah, maybe it's just them trying to fill time and actually celebrating Triple H. And they did some of that in the Garden moment. Man, I remember sitting at home watching that, and it was JR's voice it's just stamped on it, saying that this is the loudest sustained roar that I've ever heard in Madison Square Garden, and it was just crazy, and a testament to him, to Triple H, who left as one of the hottest heels in the company, tore his quad, and came back as the biggest babyface in the company instantly, of which I think they could have done with Seth. Instead, upon his return, they just kept him heel. Biggest mistake probably of his career at Extreme Rules in 2016 or whatever the hell it was. But yeah, again, if I put Triple H on the Mount Rushmore of wrestling, no. But I think he was one of the best heels I've ever seen. People don't give credit to how damn good Triple H was, how much we hated him back in the Attitude Era, and you just love seeing the Rocker Austin beat the hell out of him. Like that, I mean, he was a true heel. Like, so I would put Triple H in terms of the heels in my category of like the top 3. Like that's how good he is in my mind at being a heel, if he wants to be and was in his heyday. Again, but you fast forward 18 years later, this guy's like, they both got gray in their beards. They're not looking. HBK looked a little like, I don't know. He didn't look the greatest. It's just
he hasn't looked normal since he retired, man.
No, he's just man. I mean, like he just looks. He's old. His teeth are yellowing. Like I'm not trying to body shame, but like, look, aesthetics are important in wrestling. Like you're on my TV screen, I'm gonna judge what I see. So like he's not looking great. And you know what? Maybe he's just completely said, I'm done with wrestling. I'm just gonna do whatever. I'm enjoying family time, and that's great. But it's just when you think of Shawn Michaels and you see the guy that came out last night, it's like, wait, what? I mean, so anyway, this segment was just kind of a hot mess. I didn't hate it because I kept waiting for something to happen, and the star power there saved it because of how big all 3 of these guys are. But it was just weird, and if it's just to fill time, we're probably just wasting our breath on this whole thing. But the lazy eye comment was probably the comment of the night.
I mean, going in retrospect, if we're going to talk about Triple H, yeah, man, I mean, people also, I actually appreciate Triple H's humor and his comedy when he delivers. Like some of the stuff he did in Attitude Era, especially the angle with Stephanie up into them getting married in real life and stuff like that. Like his delivery sometimes, he's very funny. I think he makes me giggle. And yeah, you were just saying he was one of the biggest heels at in the company at the time when he blew out his quad, and it makes me go back to it, and I get really mad because man, the 2-man power trip with him and Austin when they were tag team.
Oh yeah,
that was like the beginning of like a really great what could have been, man. That heel tag team, like with Austin, that was the only time that Austin was working as like a heel because he was with Triple H and they did win the titles, right? They were tag team champs, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and that was the beginning of something really special. I think if Triple H would have, I get mad about this. I always forget that they were together, and then I'm remembered that that's what happened. Like that's why he left and then he came back. Like you said, he was the biggest babyface in the company. Like, I forgot about it, but they were, like, my favorites at the time because that was the beginning of something special, man. If they would have been able to run with that, and you knew they would have been tag team champs forever, nobody would have been able to beat them. They would have run shot on that whole entire roster, and it was something really special, man, that ended really, 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 really prematurely. And that was, like, one of my favorite times of Triple H. But, man, I get angry about that because I forgot that's why it was like they were having a match and he blew out his quads. I think he blew out both of them, right? In the match.
I think it was just his right right quad.
I swore he blew out both. I think like he blew out one and then he blew out the other one. Like I know there's a joke with the quad thing. I'll ask my brother because my brother.
Or when Vince McMahon came in the Rumble and blew out both of his quads.
That was
in the ring.
okay. Maybe I'm mixing up.
That was like 2004. That was one of the funniest things. Like I mean, you have to go to. Oh my God, seeing Vince, he's sitting there like a child. It is one of the funniest things you'll ever see. Blowing out both quads, getting in the ring.
Yeah, but yeah, man, that I forgot. Just being reminiscent of it, man. The 2-man power trip. What
underrated.
Could have been? What could have been?
I mean, I remember them beating up the Hardy Boys and beating up Lita when it was okay to do that with women, and giving the stunner to Lita, and then eventually the Brothers of Destruction stood up to them, and that's where I think things really started to. But man, that like you said, that could have been a hell of a long-term angle, the 2-man power trip. But
I mean, they would have owned WWE. I mean, I think at that point Triple H was already married to Steph's storyline, right?
Yep.
And you got Austin. And, they tried the Austin heel angle solo, which I still think was good for comedic reasons, along with Kurt Angle and Deborah backstage. I think it's an underrated thing. I know it's like, Austin being a heel, it didn't work, and it didn't. Austin, he's always been the anti-hero, he's the tweener. But when he was with Triple H, man, he was definitely a heel, and it didn't matter that he was, people just wanted him to beat people up, but he was with Triple H, so he was, technically, a real heel, and I think that was the only time it worked for him. And, man, it would have been nuts if that would have went on for a long time, and it ended prematurely. But, yeah, that moment when he came back at the Garden, I was there. It was one of the craziest things I've ever seen in my life, and JR was right. That place did not settle. Everybody was on their feet for 10 minutes. It seemed like it could have been longer. Nobody would shut up because everybody was so happy he was back because it was such a crazy. I think it was because he was on that run with Austin and everybody was pissed that he got injured, so everybody was happy he was back. And it was post 9/11, I think, too.
Yeah.
It might have been, it was post 9/11.
It was January of 2002, yeah.
Yeah, because my sister-in-law was pregnant with my nephew. My nephew was born in March. So, yeah, it was post 9/11, too. So everybody was happy to see him back, But, man, it could have been.
God.
It makes me so angry. Every time I remember that, I get so mad about it.
Think how good that could have been effing money. Oh, my God.
It was already, but it was literally, they were only together for a couple months, and it had to have been less than 6 months. It was 2 months in, or maybe even less than that when he got injured. It was they had just got their rhythm and they just started running shot on the, Mason.
And then, even as the leader of the alliance and all that, there were some funny moments. The whole what thing came out of this, so I guess whether you view that as a negative or positive depends on your perception of it. 18 years later.
Was great.
Yeah, the beginning of the what thing was really funny. I remember him punking out.
Promos? Yeah.
Yes, yeah. All right, well, so I think we've covered the final segment of SmackDown, and we kind of it could be a time filler, probably is a time filler, and we'll move on. So a good thing I want to talk about and kind of balance this out a little bit is, at least in my eyes, Zelina Vega, for the second week in a row, is one of the focal points of Raw. And I put out there that she may be the MVP of Raw. And yes, Drew McIntyre is good, and I'll touch on him in a minute too, but Zelina Vega really starting to be really focused on and be prominent, a prominent figure on Raw, leading this group of Andrade and Austin Theory and Angel Garza. And I love her. You and I have sung her praises many, many times on this show, but now we're starting to see it kind of show itself to see, hey, is this going to work with Zelina? Can she truly, as we've all thought, run a group, be the spokesperson of a group, be on commentary, be at ringside, cut backstage promos? I think the answer to all of that is yes, and yes. So I don't know. Yes, they're kind of being fed to Drew McIntyre, of which I like Drew, but is this really worth the sacrifice of building this group up to just be fed to Drew every week? I don't know. It's kind of a weird dynamic. I'm very conflicted on how I feel about that. But at least for me, from a Zelina Vega standpoint, I hope this continues. I love seeing her on my screen for many reasons. But I mean, like, let's be honest. I'm a straight guy. Like, I mean, let's be honest. I'm married, but like, I'm not blind.
Spanish Trish Stratus. If you ever look at her and Trish next to each other, she looks a lot like Trish.
Yes.
But she's Hispanic, so I get it, man.
Yeah. No. What am I gonna do? Like, I'm not blind, right? So, but the fact is, like, beyond that, I mean, she is just so damn magnetic. She's believable. She's all in on her character. She's very well spoken. She's a great heel manager. I love her on commentary. I hope this continues, and I hope they get away from Drew McIntyre, who just continues to take all the momentum they build during Raw and then crush it. It's for Drew's benefit, but at the same time, I'm like, but I want this group to get bigger and better. So, I don't know. I'm very conflicted, but I love Zelina Vega. What do you think about this so far?
I mean, we've praised Zelina. I've met her a couple times in real life. She's awesome. I think out of all I saw her before, I met her before she got to this level, and she just always wanted it, dude. So that's why she's so invested in it. And like, it's also a timing thing, man. I think that if things weren't going on like they're going on right now, I don't think that her and this group, I don't think Austin Theory would be up to, or would be getting such a predominant spotlight on them, because it's something that's been able to give time that maybe they wouldn't have gotten before this. Because Andrade was there and Zelina was there. It's not like they weren't, but then Andrade, had the wellness policy violation, and then I think he was injured. So, they brought up Angel Garza and they put it, and then same thing with Austin Theory. And like, it's just timing, man. And I think like they're giving them a lot of time because they're one of the best things that's going on in professional wrestling right now. But I think that the only way that they're able to prove this is because they're getting the time that I think they wouldn't have been allotted if this pandemic was going on. Zelina Vega, like we talked about it a couple months ago, even when she was just with Andrade, and they were kind of hinting at that she might have, because she's always said that she's a Paul Heyman, and those are her clients. She is basically right now, I'm throwing a lot of clout on this. This is the female leader of Dangerous Alliance 2.0. If she gets more people under her, I think it'll be completely believable. She is able to do all this. She can wrestle. She knows how to speak on the mic. She's beautiful. She's smart. They're not doing the stupid romantic angles where she's banging somebody in her group. No, these are her clients and these are her personnel, and she is their manager, and she's doing everything to make them get to the top of the food chain in WWE. And that's kind of what's happening, just like naturally. This is a natural thing that's going on right now. Do I think this, again, I don't really think this would have come to fruition so much if the COVID virus was not going on. I mean, hey, look at a bright spot. Silver linings, guys, right? Because I think it would have gotten lost in the shuffle. I don't think Austin Theory would have gotten called up. I know that was an injury thing, but I just think that they have so much time and they're trying to fill things, and these people are willing and they're healthy still, thank God. And every week that they get more time, they're taking risks despite all the things that we said earlier in the show that people might be able or afraid to do right now. They don't care. They're like, this is our time. We're going to do it. We're going to show what we get. And each week they do something and it still works. So they give them more time. So it's just like, I think this is a timing thing, and that's not to take away from Zelina's talent at all. I just think that a lot of this has to do with timing right now, and she's making the most out of it, and this is enabling everybody to see how fantastic she actually is, and it's a good thing. And I hope they get another member or two, and she becomes the new Paul Heyman, because I really, really think that she could. I know when I had met her, I had done WWE. I was an extra on WWE back in 2014, and I knew her through Busted Open. And I know she was talking a lot to Paul Heyman backstage. So you can see his hands in this. And I just hope that that's what is going on right now. And I think it's going to continue. And I think it's a great thing that's going on in WWE right now, despite all the other stuff that's kind of bad.
Right. And with Brock Lesnar probably being gone till SummerSlam, he has a August SummerSlam, probably a Survivor Series, Rumble, and Mania type of schedule. Paul Heyman certainly is probably more available now more than ever. Yes, he's running the creative end of Raw, but yeah, she certainly is a chip off the old block as far as a female version of Paul Heyman in certain aspects. And Zelina, just as you said, like the best part of this is that it's professional. Like, you don't need to see every cute girl who's attached to a guy thinking that they're sexually involved. Like, I don't need to always assume that. And she makes it very clear that that her relationships with her clients are professional. And I love that, because that tells me about what's important to her character, and that is winning at any cost, not about getting involved in a love triangle, right? Like, you can't tell me that anybody takes Lana more seriously than Zelina Vega. I mean, like, Lana is interested in drama. Zelina Vega is interested in freaking winning and making sure that her clients, at any cost, win championships and continue to excel. Underhanded or not, that's just who she is, and she sells every move like it is devastating to her. Just the way she talks even on commentary, which is a different animal. Not everybody can translate from being a great promo to being on commentary, because there's no script for being on commentary. It's very ad lib. So she translated into that very well. Obviously, her promos are well spoken. She's got a nice pace. Just like everything about what she does. And you know what? Like, she could excel at this and be a manager for a long time and be a spokesperson for a group or individual or a tag team, whatever. And she could do very well. But I've said this, I think, last week on one of my shows, that I believe that her best days are in front of her, and not as a manager, but ultimately at some point in the next couple of years, maybe sooner, she could be women's champion. And I think a heel run as champion could take her career to that next level. Again, I don't know if that's in the cards. I'm sure she's interested, but right now she's excelling where she is at a very high rate. I just think ultimately, if she wants to reach that peak, it could be as a heel champion for a long run, cutting great promos.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, you got to look at it like a lot of people don't know. I mean, I'm sure you know, but she was in TNA when she was very young, and she was tag team champs, I believe. She was a wrestler first, She is a wrestler. She knows how to wrestle. I feel like the company is very comfortable with her being in a manager role, which is weird because they shied away from managers for a long time and valets or whatever. But she can wrestle, and absolutely, I mean, she has champ written all over her, just the way that she presents herself with her clients and them being champions. And nobody... Like she is, I know I talk about AJ Lee a lot. She is the void that, filling the AJ Lee void. Like, no, we haven't seen anybody on the mic as good as AJ Lee in the women's division. I will give Sasha Banks it, but like they've flip-flopped and they have messed up Sasha Banks' character so many times. I do think it's in Sasha Banks' arsenal, and she can be one of the best mic people there. If they let her go and, she wasn't always involved in these convoluted angles that she's been involved with, she was just by herself, and she hasn't since she's debuted on the main roster. She hasn't. But Zelina fills that AJ Lee void. And I know that her and AJ Lee trained together and they came up together. So she played AJ in the Rock movie. There was a reason for that. She has the same pace. She has the same well-spoken. They have the same dramatic effect where they can own a room with the mic. And like you said, there's not a lot of people that could go to commentary like that. Who have we seen? CM Punk, Triple H, a couple of people can go on commentary and do that. So she's very, very special, and she absolutely has a championship run in her. I don't know when they're going to pull the trigger on that, because she's doing so well as this Paul Heyman-esque character right now. But, I mean, if things keep going the way they're going and, the women's division is what it is, I hope they start putting her in matches soon. And they've been doing that kind of like on and off. Like, they've been doing the thing with Bianca Belair. I hope it starts to go further for her. But I think she's also happy where she is right now, because she's kind of directing the show. And once you get into that role where you're wrestling, you kind of lose some of your power. And we've seen that, So... it's going to come. I don't know when. I don't know how. I still hope for an AJ Lee return because I would love to see the two of them go back and forth on the mic. Because I don't think that there's anybody on the roster that can sit there and go on the mic with her. Do you think there is? I mean, I think Sasha Banks could, but like I said, Sasha Banks is Sasha Banks. It's not crapping on her. It's just, she's got this angle going with Bayley, and it feels like it's been forever, and, I think they're going to screw it up in the end anyway. But honestly, is there anybody else?
Mm-mm. Nobody even comes close to her as far as being on the mic. And yeah, she's a manager right now of which there are a very, very small number of managers. So in the manager pool, she is number one. I mean, by a long margin. Yeah, Paul Heyman, but he's kind of in a different world with Brock Lesnar. I mean, you talk about any other team. She, to me, is the best manager WWE has as a full rounded performer because she can do it all. Paul Heyman can't wrestle. She can if need be. And once they translate her, assumingly, into the women's active role of being in the title hunt, does she get lost in the sauce? Does she just kind of get put out there and then they have her touch a title opportunity and then lose it and go back into like some, mid-card program? I would like them to look at her as a future long-term heel champion. And if they don't see that, I don't want her doing it because it's going to be wasted talent. So to me, as long as she's put in a prominent position, if it's as a manager and she excels there, and she clearly is, then I'm fine with it. But eventually she'll hit a ceiling, and it's going to be a shame because how good she could be. And seeing her as a women's champion, I don't care what brand it is, whatever shakeup they have or whatever, I don't care. She needs to be a women's champion to really reach her full and realize her full success. So, all right, moving on.
The person who takes down Charlotte.
Yeah, it could be. But the thing is, she'd have to go to NXT. It gets messy.
Yeah,
but
I'm just saying, in the long run, like I'm not saying now.
Gotcha.
Like Charlotte's gonna drop that title sooner or later. You know what I mean? But Charlotte is the pinnacle right now. She's the golden girl. She's a Flair. Like woo. Like all that crap and stuff. But like we've always been saying, like who's gonna top Charlotte? Like even if Becky is still in her seat where she is. Becky is not going to take down Charlotte. Like, I mean, yeah, you could say in a match or whatever. She's not. Like, Charlotte still has a thing over Becky. I mean, I know I like to rip on Charlotte and say that she's Teflon at this point, but there's a reason why she is, She's that damn good. I think she, as long as they keep Charlotte in a heel position, she's good on the mic. You want to hate her, she's a Flair, and it works. But, like, thinking down the line, if Charlotte becomes Raw champ or SmackDown champ again, who's going to be able to step up to Charlotte and take her down? Like, we say Rousey, but, like, I don't think Rousey, and, I mean, I know I missed that whole Rousey carbuncle while I haven't been on this podcast, but, like, I mean, you can't put your money in Rousey because we don't know if she's ever coming back. We don't know if this is a gimmick going on right now. We don't know if it's a word. But, like, talking roster-wise, who's there right now? Yes, Zelina's tiny. She's shorter than me, and I'm 5'2.5", 5'3". She's a tiny little thing. AJ Lee's tinier than me. These are little girls, but their personality and their presence overtakes their stature. And you always got to watch for the little ones. I always say that. The best singers are really tiny. They're always the feistiest, I know Charlotte Flair is a big, not a big woman. She has this stature about her where she rules. She's the queen, but the spunky little Latino taking her out, it'll work because Zelina Vega is believable to be able to do that. She has that Rey Mysterio factor to her.
I mean, look at Alexa Bliss. Alexa Bliss is about her height, too. 5 feet of Fury. They kept knocking on Alexa Bliss's height when she first came up. 5 feet of Fury, 5 feet of Fury.
Yeah.
And I don't even care how tall she is because, like, Alexa Bliss, I think, would be a good contender against Zelina Vega. I would put Alexa in that category of good to great promos in terms of the women's division. So I don't care about the height. But, I mean, when you look at Zelina Vega, like, you don't even think about her height because how she presents and how she portrays herself and how she projects herself and how she speaks and walks and everything else, you don't even think about that. You feel like she's much taller than she is at times because unless she's standing right next to like one of her clients, but she just feels bigger because of her voice and her promo, and it's a testament to her. So, okay, I do want to move on, though, in the essence of time. A few more topics I want to get to. Some of the big topics of the week. And, well, beyond Gronkowski going back to the NFL, alle effing Luya. I mean, seriously. But WWE likes to make sure that they let you know he's still 24/7 champion. What if he gets a touchdown from Tom Brady in the end zone and, you know, someone tackles him for the pin? I mean, it's getting just bizarre. What they're trying to do is tap into the NFL. I believe they're trying to tap into the NFL audience by kind of trying to do a crossover, like, oh, he's going to be in the NFL, but he's got this championship for WWE. What if he's in the end? I mean, like, I know what they're trying to do. It's just silly. It's stupid. You think the NFL is going to allow this? You think the NFL is going to allow this? No, they would never allow this.
He's gone. He was like, yo, I'm going with my boy Brady to Tampa Bay. He's gone. He's going to drop that title in the next month. It's over, WWE. Get over it. It's not going to happen. I know exactly what you're saying. He, you know, again, business. He's a football player. He's also a very big dweeb. He's going back to the NFL. Thank you. Goodbye. I hate these crossover stars because they, you know, as soon as their old opportunity comes in and like they get like play because they're in the WWE, like even if they do or they don't, they ditch you in a second. So let's just move past it. Let's thank God that he's gone and get over yourself already. Yeah, I get what you're saying, man.
Yeah, so when he said that he was going back to the NFL, I said hallelujah, because we were all speculating and heard rumors that he signed a 2 to 3 year contract with WWE prior to WrestleMania, and I was like, no, and then they're trying to present him as a babyface, as the host of WrestleMania, with the other D-bag, Mojo Rawley, who act like they're, you know, in their, basically the guys that are in the frat house that are too old to be there but are still trying to hang out with the cool kids in college, like they are those guys, and I just cannot, I don't know how that's endearing to anybody. I don't understand the appeal of that, unless you're trying to be a heel and it ultimately there's a payoff of you getting your ass kicked. That's cool. But to present them as cool, funny, entertaining, no, they're not. So, God, thank you for taking Gronkowski out of the WWE world. And eventually, the belt's coming off him. That's not what I wanted to talk about. I do want to talk to you about the Strowman and Wyatt, because I know that there's a hell of a story to draw from there, at least based on their history from being in the Wyatt family. Braun Strowman was the black sheep. And Bray Wyatt's now basically on a vengeance tour to take out everyone who has done him wrong, and that's pretty much what the character's based around, of vengeance and revenge and just unpredictable violence. That's what he is, and mind games and all that. So, and again, the quality of this match coming up at Money in the Bank is really not in question, because it's not going to be a 5-star classic. But are you at least mildly interested in the story that they're trying to present, given the history of these two?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good storyline. You know, there's history. I like when WWE does history stuff. Do I think that Wyatt's going to retain the title? I mean, not Wyatt. Strowman's going to retain the title? Hell no. Like, the title's going back to Wyatt. Like, I still don't even understand, like, after the whole John Cena thing, which you hated so much, which I loved, why they took the title off of him in the first place. And it obviously was just so Goldberg could win something in Saudi Arabia. The title's going back to Wyatt. It should have never been off of him to begin with. But yeah, I appreciate that there's a storyline here. I feel bad for Strowman, because I don't think Strowman would have gotten a title if Roman Reigns backed out of WrestleMania. Reigns would be your champion right now. But with everything that's going on, it looks like Reigns is out, and rightfully should be. I mean, he has a compromised immune system. He's a cancer survivor, and I don't want to see Roman Reigns in that ring, despite how I feel about him, until everything is good and clear. And anybody who craps their poo-poos on him about that, including the company, can sod off. But yeah, I mean, I feel bad for Strowman, because I think Strowman should have won the title a couple of years ago when he was super, super hot. And then he kind of became a joke, and everybody talks about his attitude backstage and stuff like that. But like, he's a paper champ. He's not, there's no way that they're going to let him retain the title against Wyatt. Wyatt's still too hot. He's coming off that thing with Cena in the Firefly Funhouse. Nobody's heard from Cena since, and like you said, he's on a vengeance tour, and that's what they need to do to sustain Wyatt's character right now. So I appreciate the storyline. I hope that they use it to the best of their ability and they don't forget anything, which seems like they haven't, because again, I think they're just, throwing stuff and sticking it to the wall, and this is something that actually has substance to it, so they're going with it. Timing, again, I think a lot of things that are good right now and make sense in the WWE has to do with timing, because they don't have the room to fuddy put, I guess that's the term. I don't know why I'm using that term, around stuff right now, because I think their staff is probably minimal and they're trying to fill time. But I hope they use it. But he's not retaining that title. It's going back to Wyatt. And if I'm wrong, then I'll be surprised. Just like I was surprised that Tamina super kicked Sasha 2 weeks ago and got a spot in Money in the Bank. Like, totally taken aback by that. And there was something else that happened that I was like, holy crap. But yeah, I'd be really, really shocked if Strowman retains.
Well, again, the rule of WWE is, attack a champion, you get an opportunity. I mean, that's what Seth did with Drew McIntyre, and then Drew McIntyre offered it up. I'll get to that in a minute. But that's the rule. I mean, again, none of that surprises me. But the fact that we have Strowman and Wyatt, I'm surprised they're going to this early. Again, with Roman Reigns out, and the whole rule that Vince McMahon has basically told announcers, everyone, to never not mention Roman Reigns makes sense. People think that it's a sign that they're going to be firing Reigns or that he's on bad terms with the company. No. The fact of the matter is that if I was the owner of the company and wanted to make sure creative made sense, I wouldn't have anybody mention Roman Reigns, because right now there's no payoff to Roman Reigns being able to retaliate against anybody that may trash talk him, whatever. I think they want Roman Reigns out of anything so that they can work with a clean slate when he comes back, and it would make no sense to talk about somebody that's not there and you have no idea when they're going to be back. So people need to relax about the fact that, WWE said don't mention Roman Reigns. I would too. Like, just keep him out.
Like the one smart thing that they've done, like, give them credit about that. Usually they're talking about somebody who's gone all the time and, like, not leaving any mystery, like there's no mystery to it, or there's no rhyme or reason. They're always like, oh my God, this guy, when he returns. Like, leave it alone for once. Jesus.
Right. Well, no, I mean, no, but it's true. So people read onto that and immediately went to, oh my God, what did he do with the company? Relax. I mean, like, think about it if you own the company, right? So, anyway, but with Strowman and Wyatt, again, good story there. A lot to draw from. I'm really curious to see what the follow-up is next week, if they continue with these promos. And, again, do I think that Strowman is going to beat Wyatt? I'm a little bit, I don't want to say I'm opposite of you, but I'm leaning more towards retaining the championship for Strowman. And the reason is, WrestleMania championship wins usually stick for a long time, meaning 6 months plus. Look at, the past few WrestleManias. Anytime a championship changes hands, typically at WrestleMania, you want those to stick for a while because it's at WrestleMania. And in this case, you have Wyatt, who needs repair right now, given, he beat Cena at WrestleMania. My God, I don't even want to get into that. He, quote, beat John Cena at WrestleMania in this dream fantasy world. But prior to that, he lost to Goldberg, which many people were like, WTF to that. And before that, he was, God, I don't even want to get into the Seth Rollins match at Hell in a Cell. Daniel Bryan, he was in the program with Daniel Bryan, beat him a couple of times. But, so Bray Wyatt needs some help here in his character rebuilding and feeling more of a unbeatable monster. But I don't know if Wyatt needs the belt. Wyatt, I felt, was ordained with that belt much too soon, which made me think that, hey, they're just trying to put the belt on him because they have no other option. It's not necessarily the right call right now. Wyatt's character doesn't call for the belt, I don't think. I think his vengeance, his violence, his mind games, that's where the money's at with him, eventually getting to a long title reign. And Strowman is about as interesting as, me being WWE or Universal Champion. Like, it'd be like, wait, who? It'd be very boring. Braun Strowman is a guy that's kind of two-dimensional. He has a big monster voice that he talks in, and he's a big dude. He's the monster among men, and he talks big and mean for a scary voice for kids. That's what he does. He's not a great promo. He's not great in the ring. He's kind of a quasi-attraction, but good in the ring. He's kind of a hybrid. He should not move around the way he does for his size, and that's a compliment to him. But to me, he's kind of two-dimensional. He doesn't offer a whole lot as champion, and Bray Wyatt is infinitely more interesting as a character. So I'm not sold on Bray Wyatt winning, but I'm not like completely sold on Strowman retaining. For those reasons, it's kind of like I'm torn. I'm torn because there's a lot to consider there. But I don't know. Those are my thoughts on the match.
I mean, like, I get what you're saying, but at the same time, like, I totally agree that Wyatt got the title way too soon, but then they did it. They pulled the trigger, and he was champ. And, I mean, the Seth Rollins thing was unfortunate. But my argument is that, again, Strowman would not have the title right now if Roman Reigns wasn't out. And they put it on him because they didn't want the title on Goldberg. That was just a flash in the pan for some princes in Saudi Arabia. So the whole theory of, usually somebody who gets the title at WrestleMania has a long run, it doesn't apply to him. He wasn't supposed to get the title. They had no reason. They had nothing else. They had to put it on him. I mean, they could have chose somebody else, but they were backed in a corner. That's what happened. So I just think that Strowman's, like all the reasons you just said, Strowman, I mean, I know Wyatt doesn't need the title, but he was the champ and the writing's on the wall. And I mean, he beat John Cena. I know you don't want to say that. He beat John Cena. He's getting the title back. At least until Roman Reigns comes back, that's your champ right now. It's not Strowman. Like, he's boring. Again, I don't even think he would be champ. I don't even think he would have an opportunity for a championship if Roman Reigns was like, F y'all, I'm not wrestling. I'm not getting sick. And Roman Reigns is out indefinitely until this is over. Roman Reigns would be champion right now. We all know this. That whole Goldberg thing was a ruse. Or was it a ruse? Like I said, flash in a pan, Saudi Prince wanted it. That's why he won it. So technically, Wyatt should have never dropped the title. Should Wyatt have gotten the title when he got it? Absolutely not. It was way too soon. Way too soon. But they did it. They pulled the trigger. And if we're going to say consistency, Wyatt should be your champ still, if you do the math. It's the same thing that happened with Punk being champ for like a year and a half. I mean, that was validated. But then dropping the title to The Rock just so Cena could win it, that's what was going on with this. Like, dropping the title to Goldberg just so Roman Reigns could win it. You know, there's no other argument for me. That's it. That's all I got.
So what I think may happen, and this is just my thought, as you were talking about it, the Roman Reigns and Bray Wyatt program will happen.
Yes.
And I think that if things with this virus, again, there's so many unknowns, and I'm sure WWE is like, and I understandably like, do we pull the trigger on this angle? Do we not? Do we hope that by August things are calmed down so maybe we can plant seeds for Roman versus Bray at SummerSlam, which I think ultimately is what they'd like to do, given in a perfect world, and maybe back in front of fans, which is what they probably want. But if Roman Reigns is back in time to do a program by SummerSlam, and he gets the all clear that he can return to work, then maybe Strowman retains this time, but the next pay-per-view in June, I'm assuming King of the Ring, he would lose to Bray Wyatt, and then ultimately have a 2-month build, or I don't even know if it's a 2-month build, but you would have Wyatt as champion for a couple of months prior to Roman Reigns entering the picture and challenging him for a match at SummerSlam. Because Strowman, again, very boring as champion. I don't find Strowman particularly interesting. You know this. But I just think that right now, having Strowman lose to Bray Wyatt, I think would be damaging to Braun Strowman, who WWE clearly likes, given the fact that he also won and lost the Intercontinental Championship within a couple of weeks of each other. I mean, he does not hold on to belts very long at all. And for him to finally get to the mountaintop, I think would do a disservice to the fans that actually enjoy him as champion. And there are many. I think that I'm in the minority. And people are like, oh, finally, a new champion. And Braun Strowman has climbed the ladder. and no pun intended, I guess, with Money in the Bank. But we have Braun Strowman as champion. Many people like him. Why are we going to give it to Bray Wyatt right now when he just won it at Mania and he's going to drop it at Money in the Bank? So this could be a follow-up. So in other words, he could lose. Braun Strowman could win somehow in a way that protects Wyatt, so that the next month, they could have another month with Strowman as champion and then drop it there. So ultimately, yes, I think you're ultimately right that Bray Wyatt will regain the championship because all roads lead to Roman Reigns, and that's where they're going to go. Reigns versus Wyatt at SummerSlam. I think ultimately that's the destination.
I mean, I was the only one who was right about Royal Rumble and WrestleMania. Roman Reigns wasn't facing Wyatt. I mean, granted there was semantics and all this, but it's just how do you protect Wyatt with Strowman winning? You actually believe that I'm just saying, put yourself in the fantasy world. How does Strowman, a disciple of Wyatt originally, who comes off, he's a big dude, he's super strong, he shouldn't move, but like you said, he's boring, I'm gonna get your hands, or whatever, how does he beat this super smart mind game MFer who is Bray Wyatt, who is also very good in the ring? There's no way to protect him unless it's a DQ. And who's gonna DQ it? Bray himself? It just doesn't make sense to me. If it was somebody else, then maybe I would have an argument for them retaining, but I cannot see Strowman retaining against Bray Wyatt at Money in the Bank. Unless it's against Bray Wyatt, Money in the Bank happens, and that's prior, we always say during Money in the Bank, it always matters about the ladder match.
I think what may happen, the only way to protect him may be where it's kind of a Finn Balor situation. In other words, Bray Wyatt is the Bray Wyatt of the Firefly Funhouse who faces Braun Strowman and not the Fiend. So we got to be very careful with the words that WWE presents us with. If it's Bray Wyatt versus Braun Strowman, then we know that it's the Bray Wyatt of the Firefly Funhouse, the host.
He's going to get beat.
Right. So the next pay-per-view would make sense that he transitions into, if I'm doing the Finn Balor analogy correctly, it would be the Demon, i.e. now the Fiend versus Bray Wyatt or versus Strowman at the next pay-per-view, then he loses. So that's the only way that I could see Braun Strowman winning is against Bray Wyatt the Man and not the Fiend, which would protect his character that way because the Fiend would not lose. So that's the only way I could see it happening. We'll be very careful of the graphics they use, the words they use to describe this match. So, all right. Well, again, I do want to move on for time interests as we just eat time up talking wrestling. It's crazy. So Money in the Bank is coming up, and they're doing this again. They love their production matches. You know how I feel about them. This is now being taken place, and both men's and women's ladder matches for Money in the Bank are taking place in Titan Tower, and the contract is at the top of the building. And I'm very fearful, at least because this is, again, not my taste, that they're going to do an overproduced, not to the level of Firefly Funhouse, but probably somewhere along the taste, or at least a little bit of the Boneyard match that AJ Styles and Undertaker had, taking cues from that. And God help us if they use a punching soundboard to this match. I'll turn it off if they do that. But this could be overproduced. Maybe they just leave it to the performers to do most of it and do some post editing to make it look a little better. I'm going to be open to this. I'm fearful, though, that it's overproduced and silly when you could have somebody just go, oh, I'm going to wait till y'all beat the hell out of each other and just jump in the elevator, right, and go to the 10th floor, or wherever the hell it's at. Like, if someone overlooks that detail, that the elevators are existing in that building, please, I don't need them fighting up stairwells when there's an effing elevator on every floor. So I'm really hoping they don't overlook that, but there'll be cameras in places that there shouldn't be and things that I'm just supposed to overlook because it's sports entertainment. And again, I know I'm of the minority of the old school. I like things that make sense, but this isn't Titan Tower. I'm intrigued, but I'm scared. How do you feel about this?
All right. I'm going to question you right now, Matthew. Okay.
Can't wait.
I'm intrigued by it. I think it's interesting. It's creative. I mean, they're working with what they got right now, right? It's a different way to present, because, like, you can't have a ladder match in the middle of the ring right now with no crowd, right? Am I right about that?
Well, no, they did it at WrestleMania with
but
SmackDown
like,
Tag
this is
Team
Money
titles.
in the Bank, though. This is a little different. That ladder match was insane. Okay, I'm just saying, they're trying to be creative right now, okay? And now I'm going to throw the question at you that I know you're going to hate. What if they film it like Die Hard?
Oh, God. I'm physically in pain. Like, WWE.
You know that's the angle they're going to go with this. Come on. I understand you're worried about the elevators. You're absolutely right. But suspension of disbelief. I will throw that out there. But if they shoot this film style like Die Hard, I am totally in. I don't care what you say. All right? Because Die Hard is an awesome movie, and it'll be epic. I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
It's, they're doing what they're trying to do right now. Because honestly, like, the ladder match at WrestleMania was fantastic. It was one of the best matches on the card. But, they also are very aware that, like, wrestling's kind of hard to watch right now without a crowd. It just is, So they got to do different things, like they did with the Boneyard match and like they did with the Firefly Funhouse. I know you didn't like the one more than the other one. You also didn't like both of them, Matt. But, like, if they're going to do it like Die Hard. I mean, there isn't going to be guns and Germans, but I think that it could be interesting. I mean, you're fighting through a building. You're going to have pop-ups of old superstars and people in production and stuff like that. It's going to be a no-rules match. I mean, ladder matches are usually no DQ and stuff like that. They're going to make the most of it. But what if they filmed it like Die Hard?
If they film it like Die Hard, I will be a little more receptive to it than again, I called it an acid trip because I have no other way to put it, than the Firefly Funhouse. Now, it was a good movie. You know what also was a great movie, at least in my opinion? The Matrix. Do I need to see them dodging bullets? No, I don't. I don't need to see them dodging bullets. There are a lot of movies that are great that I don't need WWE to try to use to pretend that they are not a wrestling company, because God, Lord knows they run from who they are. And I mean, if you want proof of it, look at the WWE film studio that they tried and failed and just really, really hurt their financials many years ago. I mean, they have tried many times side projects, XFL, ×2, fail. Again, second time around, not really Vince's fault. Correct. Not really their fault. They started to have mild success in their ratings, and it started to level off. And you know what? It may have been a mild success for a few years and something that was a revenue generator for WWE. But my point is, WWE loves to, anytime they get the opportunity to make themselves a non-wrestling company and make sure that the general audience looks at them as entertainment rather than wrestling, which is the entertainment, that they go for that road. And unfortunately, I think WWE got the sense, or at least they selectively listened to some of the feedback from WrestleMania, going, "Oh my God, that the Firefly Funhouse was the most genius thing I've ever seen," or "It was the best thing," and they're probably selectively picking the feedback. Although I'm probably wrong that the majority of people didn't like it. I think many people did. If I was to do a split, I'd say 60-40 people liked the Firefly Funhouse and the Boneyard match. So I'm in the minority. I understand that. So when they get that kind of feedback, that kind of just confirming bias that they have of like, oh, this is better than actual wrestling, then they take that and go, great, now I knew that's what they wanted. Let's give it to them again. So anytime they get this opportunity, they can blame it on, anybody, nobody wants to watch an empty arena of people fighting. Well, we've been watching it now for 6 weeks, so we're kind of used to it. It's kind of awkward. I would take that over this produced, overexposure, non-belief type of presentation that WWE gives us, when it's just a way for them to show off how great their production team is and how to more separate themselves from pro wrestling than they already are, and continue to try to drive that wedge in the minds of fans of who they are. So I think, yeah, you could say that it's boring in an arena, but is it? I think it's more believable in an arena because it's live, it's not pre-produced, and it is in a ring, which is where wrestling is competed in, rather than in Titan Towers, which somebody probably came up with at a meeting of like, what, the corporate ladder? a ladder match is coming up. Oh, Vince, corporate ladder match. Like, let's climb the ladder. Like, somebody in the production meeting is probably giving themselves a big pat on the back for this really nice, brilliant analogy, when in reality, it's going to, at least from my eyes and many fans that are of the belief of old school, take it and just really just take a big crap on the belief of wrestling. And at least, again, I'm being negative and I haven't even seen this match yet, but I know based on the feedback WWE got at WrestleMania, they're going to take that and go, oh, let's do this. And they're sitting there with their hands in their face, in their palms going, we've got this now. And they're going to take it and just mold it into this nonsensical WWE film style cinematic presentation that just takes wrestling and takes a big dump on it. End rant.
Okay. And that's fair. You are entitled to feel like that. One, side note, I don't think that they would film something like The Matrix. That's completely unbelievable. Two, I don't think that the whole thing's going to be pre-produced. I think that the match is actually going to happen. I'm just saying when they're shooting it, it's going to have elements of that. I mean, you got to give them the benefit of the doubt right now that they're trying to come up with stuff. I know you're saying that, we've been watching the empty arena, ratings are down right now and it's because of that. And Vince is blaming it on the talent and he's not blaming it on the fact that it's empty arena. It's because it's empty arena. It's really, really hard to get invested in it. It just doesn't feel the same. I mean, I had to watch WrestleMania twice because the whole time when it was live, I was on Twitter. I mean, that's what I'm normally doing when I'm on Raw or watching Raw or whatever. I'm on Twitter. I had to go back and actually watch the matches and be like, oh, this was a really good match. I don't know. I'm not going to knock it until I see it. I like the production pieces that they're doing. They do have one of the best production teams on the planet. I mean, everything that they put out, when they put out promos and packages, they're always good. I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt and think that it's going to be Die Hard with a wrestling match in it. And I think the corporate ladder thing is I think it's more tongue-in-cheek than like an analogy thing. Yeah, somebody is patting themselves on the back right now. But that's what everybody talks about, behind the scenes and grabbing that brass ring and all that stuff. I think it's kind of tongue-in-cheek right now. I really, really do. And I think it's kind of a chance to make fun of the pun of, okay, well, you're actually climbing the ladder to be the best in the company, and this is what you have to do. And if shenanigans happen, if McManigans happen during this time of weirdness, and it's more entertaining than just having a normal ladder match, because the Money in the Bank is just still different. I still think it's now one of the top 4. I think it precedes. Or not proceed. It is taking over the Survivor Series spot, in my opinion. So I don't know. I'm more open to think than you are because you just didn't like any of the stuff that they did.
Look, I'm open to it. I'm gonna give this, third time's the charm for me. Maybe I'll enjoy this. But I really believe that, the production team's great, and they're great in the promos. We all know that, and they do a great job of hyping up match, and they could make any match team interesting. Props to them. They do an excellent job. But that's for promos for matches, not live not matches that are presented for a pay-per-view, that are pre-produced and pre-edited to the point of exhaustion and nausea. They have an empty arena, but they aren't going to have fans at Titan Tower. It's still going to be an empty building, I would assume, based on the guidelines that are in place for the state of Connecticut, right? They are not going to have anybody in place other than the performers that are there at that time, which they would have in an empty arena anyway. So there's not going to be fans standing outside the building cheering. I mean, it's not going to happen. So the crowd interaction is going to happen no matter where they do it. No one's going to be there. So I don't know. I'm open to this. I'm not going to crap on it yet, but I can just see it because I have watched what they've done before. They got the feedback they were looking for, and now they're going to run with it. And I don't know. I could be totally wrong and eat my words, but I have a very sneaking suspicion it's going to be very, at times, hokey. And the thing is, too, it's not in a ring, which means you're really limited on the amount of moves you can do other than do what Edge and Orton did at WrestleMania and just hit each other with inanimate objects, throw each other into things over and over and over and over. There's no real moves you can do. I mean, I would assume, unless they put a ring on top of Titan Tower, which maybe they do, maybe there's a wrestling ring somewhere, I don't know, but you're really limiting the amount of moves you can do other than punch, kick, throw something, use an inanimate object, punch, kick, throw something. I mean, what are you going to do? It's very, very kind of pedestrian in terms of the move sets that you're going to be able to present, because you're in you can't throw each other on concrete floors. I mean, this is not Mick Foley in 1998. So I don't know. I'm open to it, but I can just foresee all of the things that I didn't like just rearing their ugly heads again. So, okay. So one last thing that I wanted to ask you about is Shayna Baszler and what she's done over the last few weeks since losing to Becky Lynch at I keep wanting to say SummerSlam, but at WrestleMania she lost to Becky Lynch, and many people were angry about that. But since that time, she has started to rebuild herself, and what she's done breaks Sarah Logan's arm. And then this past week, forgive me, I don't know the name, but there was a female competitor from NXT, broke her arm, and then slammed her arm I believe, jammed it in a ladder and then slammed it against the stairs or something like that. So Shayna Baszler is now breaking people's arms. And I will say, my quick thought on that, I like it. I like the fact that they are making her a vicious, vile, nasty competitor that is only concerned about hurting her opponents, not winning. And seems to be on a warpath with Becky Lynch again if she wins at Money in the Bank. I guess the only critique I have about this is the announcers continued to say, no, it's not against the rules. She was within the rules. How is breaking somebody's arm not against the rules in a wrestling match? I understand this is a fantasy environment. I get it. How are they even accentuating the fact that breaking somebody's arm is not only not illegal, but it gives that person who broke their opponent's arm the win? It's not even a disqualification. It's not they don't view it as a problem. Yet you have a hold on somebody for longer than a 5 count. Oh, disqualification. You gently shove a referee. Disqualification. But you break somebody's arm. Can you continue? Oh no, I can't. He just broke my arm. Well, then they win. I mean, what? Why would they put this out there as basically a total exposure of logic? I don't know. Here's the thing. In short, I like what they're doing with Shayna Baszler. It's good rebuilding her character. I like what they're doing. It's just nasty. It's great. It's a good message to send. But the logic behind it, that it's not a disqualification? How? I don't know. Go ahead.
I don't have a rebuttal for you because it makes absolutely no sense. I like that they're building her character as a monster, like Brock Lesnar-ish. I have no idea how they're saying all this, because when she did it to Logan, they said Logan won at first because it was a disqualification, which made absolutely 100% sense. And then it came out that the announcer said it wrong, because that's probably how he viewed it. He was like, oh, okay, well, she broke her arm, disqualification, Logan wins. But then, they were like, oh, well, Logan can't compete, so I guess Shayna Baszler wins by default. None of it makes sense. I have no idea how they're breaking the rules right now with this, but I guess it's like coronavirus or something that's taking over with it. I don't have a rebuttal for you. I'm in 100% agreement with you on everything you're saying about Shayna Baszler right now. I have no idea how breaking somebody's arm validates a win. I don't.
I think what they're trying to do is, and I said this, it might have been last week, that they're trying to have their cake and eat it too, meaning they're trying to give Shayna wins because they need her to rebound and rebuild from the WrestleMania loss. So they're not only having her break people's arms and just being a vile, only worrying about hurting people, to also getting the win. You can't have both. The only way you can have both is if she handily dispatches her opponent legally in the ring, submission or pin, and then after the match, have her break that person's arm. You can do it that way, or during the match, make it the logical reason of a disqualification. The logical result is a disqualification, and then the announcers frame it as, she doesn't care about winning or losing right now, she just cares about hurting people. That is the message you send. You can't do it this way. This is the only way to do it wrong, and they're choosing the wrong way out of 3 different ways you could do it. So, I don't know. I like what they're doing, but just what? How is this even legal? So
I don't have an answer for you. I wish I did. I mean, they also were tying in what happened with Ronda Rousey to her too. So it also, is that storyline real, or was Ronda just showing her true feelings? Because they were tying that in kind of for a little bit, and then I think they dropped off. I mean, it was within the last 2 to 3 weeks that this all happened. So I don't know. I don't know. I know that they're trying to rebuild her. Again, she should have never lost to begin with, and now it's one of those corners that they've backed into, and they're just making up the rules as they go. I mean, it's not the first time that they've done this. Like, they've had things where it's been like no DQ, and then people, the Bray Wyatt Seth Rollins match. Look at that. What happened there?
Ref stoppage. A ref stoppage. Yeah, come on. At Hell in a Cell
match. Like, I don't have an answer for you, Matt. It's wrestling. I don't know. It's ridiculous wrestling. I do know that I would take a produced piece over BS rules, though, right?
Depends on the BS rule. It really depends on the BS rule. I mean, there's been a lot of BS rules or rules that WWE forgets that they conveniently only use during stories. So it's harder for me to say a sweeping statement of what I'd rather choose. I can't tell you, how much I despise pre-taped, pre-produced, overproduced segments that are really just there to show off their skill and just try to fragment themselves away from wrestling. I can't handle it. But anyway, do you have anything else for me? I know there's a lot of stuff we didn't cover, but this would be seriously a 6-hour show between the New Day winning the championships. I mean, we didn't touch anything on Lacey Evans and Bayley and Sasha Banks. I mean, there's like a whole litany of things because we just do just basically 15, 20 minutes per topic. But anything that you wanted to briefly touch on before we wrap up?
Nah, I think I'm good. I mean, the Lacey stuff's good. I don't know where they're going with this Sasha Bayley storyline. I mean, it's clear that Sasha is going to turn on Bayley. I just don't know what's going to happen out of it. And, honestly, I think they're going to fudge it up because they fudge it up. I mean, they've been doing this Jeff Hardy return thing, which is really weird, too. I mean, they're talking about, all his hardships. We all know that, he's still struggling with this stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm not making light of that at all. I love Jeff Hardy, and I really, really feel that he's, still struggling with this. Even if it's not drugs, he's still struggling with his drinking and stuff like that. But they're making this huge produced piece about Jeff Hardy coming back, and they let his brother go. So clearly they don't care about Matt Hardy. They only got the Hardy Boys back to bring back Jeff Hardy. And it's kind of the same thing. The Usos, have had many run-ins, but, they're top. Yeah, it is what it is. So, it's just, wrestling's weird right now. There's no other way to describe it. Like I said, the best, like we said earlier, the best thing that's going right now is Zelina Vega. I have really no opinion about what's going on right now because it feels like a flux. We're in the darkest timeline, and I just don't know if any of this is going to stand afterwards, and I feel like they're just filling time right now. Because really, I need a 4-part piece of Jeff Hardy coming back, and he hasn't even wrestled.
Yeah, there was. I think it was the rise, the fall, the comeback, and then the redemption, then the comeback.
Yeah, he's still he got arrested a couple months ago, man. And I'm not trying to knock on him. I'm not it's just I don't like when they it's the same crap that they did with Roman Reigns, right? With his cancer and stuff. They use these people's problems to get him over in a weird way. And it's just okay, so you don't care about the fact that Jeff Hardy's still, struggling with this stuff, but you're saying that, he's making a comeback. Yeah, maybe he's clean right now, but, do you really need to, make this a focal point about it? Just, bring Jeff Hardy back and, leave that other stuff to the side. It made sense when he was fighting CM Punk, and CM Punk's a straight edge guy. It doesn't make sense right now. I don't need to know this crap. Everybody has their struggles. And it's the same thing with, Roman Reigns. You wanted to use it, when it first happened, fine. But they dragged that crap out for weeks, man. And now they won't even talk about him when it's clear that the reason why Roman Reigns isn't wrestling right now is because he has a compromised immune system because he had cancer and he can't compete. And he shouldn't be competing. So it's just, I don't know. Again, it's just, I don't like when they, and then the Usos, one of the Usos has gotten arrested for drunk driving a zillion times, and that guy keeps winning tag team championships. So it's why? Because he's The Rock's cousin? It's the same thing with Tamina getting title shots. There's so many convoluted things that are going on that they do all the time. And again, I'm still really bitter about this McMahon crap. So I don't have anything else to add.
But do you? I mean, so
I?
Yeah. Quickly on Tamina, I actually do like this because it's, she's been there a long time. Tamina is a different opponent. She's not going to win. We all know that. She's not a very deep character.
She might win now. I mean, I didn't expect that to come out anywhere. She's usually like a filler, but
yeah. I mean, but it is different, and you know what? She is deserving of an opportunity because she's just, whatever. I'm fine with it. It's different. I would like to see her get more mic time. I think maybe there's some untapped potential there, but that's that. And I don't know. The redemption thing, they're just, I guess, trying to make Jeff Hardy more relatable. They're trying to make him more human, trying to get the character a little deeper, trying to use a real life story to, again, like you said, get him over. And they did that with Roman Reigns to a degree that I think was kind of an exposure or a really a prostitution of what he did.
Him. And I feel like they're doing the same thing with Jeff Hardy. You don't need to get Jeff Hardy over. Jeff Hardy has always been popular. Everybody loves Jeff Hardy, despite his flaws. So you don't need to exploit his flaws. You don't. Just let him come back. You want to say the redemption? Okay, fine. But, it's been dragged out for weeks now. And they did it, with Roman Reigns' cancer, too. And it annoys me. It's just stuff like this annoys me.
If they did it for 1 week and then said, next week, Jeff Hardy will be back in ring, great. The thing is, like you said, this is the fourth week and we're like, come on. Yeah, I'm with you. And the Roman Reigns thing, I'm sure we haven't seen the last of that. I'm sure that's going to be a story. They've got film crews at his house right now.
Surviving
I'm sure.
Corona.
Yeah, talking about I made the decision for WrestleMania because of my family, man. And, and I get it. I agree with him, but they're going to turn this into some kind of documentary someday about this whole pandemic and what the stars did during the pandemic, and especially Roman Reigns, why he chose to leave WrestleMania and not be a part, and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I'm sure. You know what? If I was WWE, I'd be for thinking that and looking ahead to, that'd be a damn good documentary someday when this whole thing's over. And I would too, but anyway. So, Mary, thank you so much for joining me. Before you go, though, if anybody wants to attack you on Twitter, how do they find you?
You guys can follow me on Twitter at Mare_Bear, Bare. And you can follow me on Instagram if you want, at Poppins311.
Yeah, very, very good. And so thank you so much for being here. I always thoroughly enjoyed it, and it's always nice to go tit for tat. I will say that as we just continue to battle on these pre-produced matches that eventually I think I will win, because once this whole thing ends, we will never have to see them again. I hope, because they'll be in a freaking arena unless WWE goes. I mean, they have to. They can't do pre-taped segments for an audience that paid their money to be to a live event. I mean, so I don't know.
I mean, I don't know. They're essential business in Florida, so you might see it sooner than later because people from Florida do stupid things all the time. So.
Well, yeah, they're on spring break, and which funny, by the way, when that whole thing came out with the whole, these spring breakers are getting drunk on the beach in Florida. Look, I was one of those people, and they're those damn millennials. No, millennials are the people that are sitting at home with their kids now. I mean, people think that millennials are the youngest generation.
Or yelling at their elderly parents not to go out like me.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I love how the millennials is just, we are basically the redheaded stepchild of generations that people just point to us with, you're all the damn millennials. No, it's Gen Z.
Yep.
Do you follow the damn generations that now change? But anyway, Mary, thanks so much for being on. And if you get attacked, I'll try to back you up unless it's a produced match, then I won't be able to, but I'll try to be your backup.
Listen, if it turns out to be Die Hard, you'll get attacked because everybody loves Die Hard. So, I mean, you're on your own for that, buddy. Anything else, I can get attacked. You want to attack me about Trump stuff, McMahon stuff, fine. Yeah. But everybody's going to agree with me about the Die Hard match.
I don't know. I'll be your tag team partner for anything other than these produced matches, but other than that, I'll have to be I will sneak up from behind and attack you with a chair. I mean, virtually, of course. If it has anything to do with trying to defend that. So, all right. Well, Mary, thanks so much for joining us, and we'll be back in a few weeks. Hopefully by then we have a date of release and a date in mind. At least, I mean, up in here in New York is much different than where you are. But generally, I hope we are leaning towards, we can't wait till X date when, maybe something's returning. Maybe baseball or, hell, wrestling in a live format. So we'll see.
Yeah, me too. And all I can say is anybody listening out there, be safe, be smart, don't rush things, because if you have to wait a little bit longer, it'll be worth it in the end so we can get back to normal. That's all I'm saying about it.
Yeah, amen. All right. Thanks, Mary, and we'll talk soon.
You too. Have a good night. Peace out.
You too. Bye. Bye.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.